When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. Not to bring this Tucker Carlson up again, but he brought up the fact in the podcast recently that the surge in spending in the military industrial complex was what you just said. And he said, in Tucker's opinion, this is Tucker's opinion, that the only reason why we're doing that is we're getting ready to go into a world war. I might be wrong. I hope he's wrong. I don't want to go into a world war. Nobody does. But is that a fair theory, you think, of why we're spending so much money?
No, I think we're spending. The intent is to spend money like that so we don't go into a world war.
Gotcha.
Because the economy is the biggest factor.
Sure.
And it always is. Quite frankly, the ability to produce what you need in order for your troops to win. Sometimes that's tanks and bombs. Sometimes that's food and trucks to get. The basic necessities to your troops that are cut off. Now we're just in a different space.
We are absolutely. It's changed.
The battlefield has changed. These drones, these missiles, these hypersonics, like this technology runs off of things that we never had to worry about before. Now we're looking at lithium. We're looking at cobalt. We're looking at all these different critical minerals in order to make the bare necessities. And then lo and behold, we haven't had them. Right. And so we got to go now we're behind the curve, and that's going to take money.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
I'm not worried about a world war. Because like I said, the real war is the economic war, and we're winning.
And just the strategy play he did by taking Maduro out, when we know Venezuela's been selling that oil to Iran and China and Russia, and like you said in your post on LinkedIn, there's a business strategy play of chess going on with us getting there and taking Maduro out. There's truly a chess game of business being played. I'm like,
well, I would mention this to you,
sure.
In that, because a lot of people. You mentioned Tucker. A lot of people like Tucker have said, we can't spend money in all these different places, right? But the establishment historically said you can't pull out of Africa. You can't pull out of Korea because the Chinese will come in and they're making deals and they're buying ports and they're buying land and they're ensnaring these countries' leaders, right? They're paying off these leaders with money and promises. And then if we're not there, if we're not spending USAID money in all these places to combat that, then we're at a disadvantage. Well, in this case, Trump just took that whole thing off the board. Like, okay, well, if Maduro is indebted because he signed, these agreements for $19 billion from the Chinese. Okay, well, Maduro's no longer in charge, and we can declare that null and void. The new
debt is zeroed out.
Yeah, the new Venezuelan government can come in and say, "I didn't sign that. That's old stuff. That wasn't us." And China just takes that loss. So it's not like
interesting.
Like we have to spend because they're spending. We can take pieces off the board completely and say you lost your opportunity in Venezuela. Next would be Cuba. Then it could be wherever else that we're competing in. So it's just a different game. But
it's a totally different game.
Yeah, right. It circles around money and economics.
Absolutely.
More than it is like, hey, we're going to shoot at you and they're going to shoot back.
Yeah, because
nobody's interested in that.
Right. China's really smart. I mean, they always play the long game. They have the long-term goal, like you said. They're buying ports in Africa, different ports in different countries in Africa, and we'll give you X. Here's a bunch of money. We'll have a port here, and they're doing that globally as we speak. I don't think a lot of people realize that's what they've been doing that for years and years, is buying people's ports, different countries, entities' ports, and paying cash or whatever their agreement is. And I mean, they're doing it under the radar, and no one's really, the news is not reporting about it. They don't care.
Yeah, and then exporting their technology and their workers to make money and enrich themselves. Sure. That's been a one-sided affair
Yeah.
for the last 20 years. And now Donald Trump is saying, we're going to play this game too. And we're going to export our technology places. And we're going to pressure other governments to do business with us. And if you don't do business the way we want to, then you can't sell your goods to an American population. You don't get access to our markets. You're going to pay 25% tariffs, right? There's a bunch of tools and things that he continuously rolls out, but it's using the same pressure that the Chinese have been using for 20 years. And we complain about it, but we never played the game.
We never played a game until now.
And now we're playing the game.
Okay. That makes sense. Now everybody's freaking out over Greenland. No, we can't go into Greenland. And then the UN is sending troops over there. I'm like, this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And what's the thoughts on Greenland the next 3 to 4 years? You think that they'll work some sort of deal out and get along and all that type of thing?
Yeah, they're going to have to. I mean, the bottom line is NATO and the EU and Denmark and whoever, they're just going to have to get along, at least until this administration is over, and then see who the next guy is. But they're not really going to have a choice. I mean, the president doesn't give you much of a choice. You know, ruin your economy, ruin your country, your companies that are doing business here in America or selling their products to America, or go along with what he says. And what he's saying is, we're going to put a golden dome across America, and it's going to start in Greenland, and we're going to focus on the Arctic. And while we're doing it and we're securing it for everybody to keep it away from Russia and China, we're going to find the minerals, and we're going to use it to enhance our military capability. And there just isn't there is no other alternative. They're not going to have a choice. It's just a matter of how they say yes. Do they say yes and save face as an agreement and claim like, oh, we're working together? They can be a part of it, or they can be shut out of it. But in just what I've seen, when the president sets his mind to it, he's going to do it. And so, and we already have military base. We have a military base in Greenland now. It's not that for a while. We've been there for quite some time. I don't see any way over the next 3 years that we don't expand our presence significantly in Greenland.
Yeah, wow. It's pretty fascinating for me being a veteran and watch this all unfold this last year. It's been kind of crazy. We're living in a different America now. It's just it's like, whoa. This is I'm not used to it. I'm just like, whoa, what the heck? Being a military veteran, I sense a pride for the stance Trump is taking. And I sense that. And then you have the other side that they're just like, oh, he's nation building. And that's why we have podcasts like this to break it down to the listeners, to explain the reasons why making this decision for protecting the U.S. Because we all know, if you give a crazy man, and I don't know if he's crazy. I know a few people have talked to him. It sounds like he's a pretty smart guy, that being Putin, but he's not afraid to make moves. He's always already threatened Europe to nuke them if they don't back down with Ukraine. And I'm like, so Putin, like he wants to bring back, resurrect the Moscow Soviet Union. That's how they think in Russia. And Trump has got to you got to worry about Russia, and you got to worry about China. And what if those two world powers get together? In my thoughts, the U.S. is in trouble, and that's why he's got to do what he's doing now to protect us, for the next generation of American citizens for our own protection. That's kind of what I'm guessing at. I don't even know if I'm close to the mark on that one.
Yeah, I don't think that Putin is Europe's problem.
Got it.
They have a bigger stake in what Vladimir Putin does than we do, and that's just the truth. You can go back 6 years ago when during Trump won, and he stood up there in the UN and told the Germans, "You can't expect us to pay for protecting you from Russia when you're expanding your gas capabilities, your gas purchases from Russia. you're going to be beholden to them. And everybody laughed. And then they put it on the news that the Germans were laughing at him and that idea. And then a couple of years later, now everybody's scared of Russia again. So they have to worry about it. You can't outsource your energy to a hostile nation, and they expect us to fix it for you if it goes wrong. Right. And so Europe is just in a hard spot. They have a more vested interest in us. I think in order for as this administration looks at it, I think that he's looking long term, and long term, we need to get our own house in order. We need to have a missile defense capability that protects us from ICBMs and any strays that might come out of somewhere. And at the same time, we need to build up our industrial capacity so that we can defend ourselves in the event that we need to. And then while we do that, we're going to grow massive jobs in the process. We're going to build nuclear facilities across America. That's going to be, welders and pipe fitters and electricians and HVAC and mining companies down in Latin America with friendly countries that we're going to employ Americans to do so that we can grow our GDP, we can grow our economy because things are so darn expensive. And over the long term, if we keep that pace up, sure. Not only do we become a richer nation and people become richer in the process, but we also become, more hardened from our defenses. And sure. Then we can have this conversation, 15 years from now, whether or not we're going to actually go to war with one of these other superpowers. Because at the end of the day, Russia has been more of a paper tiger than anything. Mm-hmm. They always pretended to be able to, steamroll those small countries, and we let them pretend to. And we saw that when the conflict started, everybody expected it to be over quick, and their tanks started falling apart. Their convoys got stuck in the mud, and they took massive casualties for like the first 2 years or so. Mm-hmm. They're still in it, right? Like they're still engaged in this conflict with even though they outnumber the Ukrainians by a ton. They have more money, they have more resources, and they started with so much more and better equipment. They're still there, right? So they're not fighting anybody other than the Ukrainians and China. And China's it doesn't seem expansionary like in the traditional, like we're going to take territory. They just like to have influence. And there's more people starving in China than are in our country completely. I mean, they got 500 million people that are starving every day. They're trying to feed their people. Wow. They can't be interested in other than Taiwan for strategic purposes and historical purposes. They're not trying to expand into, Australia or Japan or anything like that. So I think we're on some clear footing for a while. We just got to get our economic house in order. We got to put people to work. We got to make some money. We got to harden our defenses and position ourselves in the event that something that we haven't calculated yet takes place.
Wow. That's a good breakdown, good explanation of what's happening out there from your perspective. So the audience listening, so they can get to know you better. What exactly does your company do? You work in Washington, D.C. You're heavily involved in Capitol Hill. So are you like more of a lobbyist, or are you lobbying for the industrial defense contracts? What do you do so people understand?
Well, I do some lobbying. I help companies that want to do business primarily with the Department of Defense. Okay. I focus on small, medium companies that are trying to get a foothold because they have a technology or they have something that can be used or that they think that can be used if they can just get in front of the right person. And right. I mean, if you ever been to the Pentagon is, 5 floors up and they got 8 different corridors, 10 different corridors, a bunch of different rings. There's 50,000 people. Most of those are behind locked doors. I try to help them open those doors, find the right people to talk to about the thing that they care about the most. And sometimes that also involves, talking to staff members and members of Congress so that they get on board and say, hey, this thing is out here and it's important. And we're looking for some legislation for the next year that says that's encouraging the Department of Defense to do whatever it is they're encouraging to do. Now, we talked about drones a bunch. There was a bunch of legislation in last year's National Defense Authorization Act that encouraged and then funded a lot of money for drones, artificial intelligence. You see the Secretary of War coming out with announcements from Grok, using Grok AI, using Gemini AI, using Big Bear AI, and some of these AI companies. That direction. Obviously, he works for the president, but a lot of that direction has come from the congressional language and laws that are passed that tell the Secretary of War that it's incumbent upon him to start to use these AI tools to solve some of these defense problems. And that's what he's doing. And so companies that don't have representation here in DC, that don't know how to find those doors to unlock or know this legislative process to take advantage of it, they're just at a huge disadvantage. Sure. And so the big industrial based people that the Lockheeds, the Boeings, the General Dynamics, all the major players up here, they have slews of lobbyists and external help that get them access to sell their stuff. And if the little guy doesn't have a DC strategy, then you're going to be chances are you're going to be left out in the cold too. So I try to provide that strategy for them, take what I see happening, on the policy side, on the political side, who's in these offices, based on my experience and the work that I've done in the past, and help them navigate these complexities. So if you got a company that's got a new artificial intelligence, apparatus that can do something spectacular that the Defense Department or the government can use, I try to help and find the right person to talk to open those doors and carry that conversation. And if it makes its way to Congress, I'm there also, trying to walk legislation across the river from Capitol Hill to the Pentagon.
You can take the business owner, kind of hold their hand and be that the business tour guide in Washington, D.C., basically, for business, for the right client.
Finding the right people. That's it's my tagline, talking to the right people in the right places at the right time. That's invaluable.
It is, absolutely.
And it is, a lot of people sleep on the idea because they think, especially in the tech world, technicians, and I'm a tech guy in my previous life as an Army communicator. We like to believe that the right answer should win. The right technology should win the argument. But that's not the way DC works. DC runs not on the right idea. It runs on relationships. It runs on politics. It runs on the news cycle. It runs on all these other things, jobs in districts that matter, programs of record that have been paid for. It runs on a legislative cycle. There's so much more than just the right answer. You can have the right answer, but if you come from the wrong place, or if you have the wrong message, or a message that's taken the wrong way, well, it can lock you out permanently. And so I try to help companies navigate that problem and say, here are the people that we're talking to, here are their backgrounds. This is what they've done in the past. This is what they've said recently. And this is how I framed what we're about to do. I'm trying to put the ball on the tee, but it's your job to hit it. And the better I do my job, the more chances are you hit a home run.
Where are small businesses lacking in? I think you just may answer this question, but the small businesses want to get involved. The better known companies like myself, they need people like you to open those doors. But when they get in that door, what do you see the lack? Where do you see them missing tools to communicate to those contacts in your experiences working with small businesses?
Well, it's linking up the national to the local, the federal government's policy or the direction that it wants to head, and how do you fit in that model? And then how do you message that model? There is a mineral and a battery shortage here in America. There are just a handful of companies that work in this area. I talked to one of those companies who marketed themselves to me as a recycling company. This is not an administration that is going to be, that's going to care about a recycling company, but a critical mineral, refurbishing company, so that we can get these batteries remade, refurbished, and back to troops at a faster and cheaper scale than we're currently using. That's a message that matters. So you got all this wazoo, this technical talk you can bring to it, but if it doesn't fit the national strategy or the national narrative at the time, the administration's narrative, then nobody wants to listen to you.
You got to change your messaging as a small business.
Right. And being able to understand that, like, sure, maybe you solve a problem, but who asked for it? How much does it cost? When can you deliver it? And show me that it works. Oh, and by the way, the intangibles.
Yeah.
How do you speak to us? Right. Let me look at your website. Let me look at your LinkedIn profile. Right. I mean, we have the federal government is run by political appointees and political people. And so when we started this conversation on LinkedIn, I'll bring it back to LinkedIn. Do you have profiles in your LinkedIn page? Because that right there alone may stop your company from getting a meeting with the person that can write an OTA or a contract or some sole source for millions of dollars. It could cripple you because the guy in the office has a thing about seeing people's pronouns on their signature block or their LinkedIn profile, or whatever. It can be something as simple as that.
Wow.
And people don't think of that because you're too busy running your business. You're a business owner. You don't have time to think about what the president's doing and what's the national message and who are these people in these offices and where did they come from before and what have they done in those offices before. Like, you don't have time for that. But that's why I got a job. And that's why, business is working well for me right now.
Give them the roadmap, because there's probably billions and billions of dollars of bidding money to be made out there for small businesses, but they just got to qualify. They got to know the red tape to go through, the procedures to go through, the system to understand, and you have that back behind you in a manual somewhere. Okay, this is what you need to do. Check, check, check.
Well, it's more art than science.
Yeah.
And understanding the potential, the potential wins that you can make up here. I mean, again, you can charge, or you might pay somebody like me, one a year and get nothing out of it, right? Quote unquote, nothing out of it, except a couple of conversations and some relationships. And then you might pay somebody like me a second year and you get nothing out of it, but some better conversations and better relationships. But then in year 3, if you come across a sole source contract for $10 million, $20 million, $30 million, well, then that 2 years worth of 1099 work you gave someone like me is peanuts compared to what you end up. But having the vision for something like that, and to say, okay, look, I'm down here at the bottom. I'm talking to program managers. I'm talking to technicians. I'm meeting with these people. That's all great, because you got to build from the bottom up. But you also need a top-down strategy that's pointing the department in a direction and saying, these guys are doing good work, and just check them out. And then you slowly start to get in there. I mean, that's what happens with the companies that grow the biggest and the best. The easiest one to put out there is Palantir. I mean, I was in the military 2009, 2010. Palantir was not a program of record. It was a small thing that special operators were using on the battlefield that almost nobody had, but they had a good product. We liked it. It slowly started to mature and get better and bigger and better and bigger. And, now it's essentially taken over the federal government.
Wow, that's crazy. Palantir. Oh,
yeah, Palantir's software and AI capability is everywhere. It's in the Department of State, Department of Defense. It's everywhere.
but this Spec Ops used it first as a beta test, probably.
Yeah, they worked a bottoms up solution, and which got them into the door, which kept them close. And then it's also owned by Peter Thiel, big Trump supporter, in 2016, 2020, 2024, right? And since then, in that case, that's their top down solution. Super close to the administration and a good product. It's everywhere. That's an outlier, but that's possible. And it's not possible if you don't have someone to represent you. So that's what I do. I hang around the National Capital Region. I talk to staffers in Congress or staffers in the Department of Defense, Homeland Security. I meet and shake hands and take the pulse of what's happening, where they see Congress going, where they see legislation going, where the money's going to be flowing, and then try to position my clients to be a part of it.
That's pretty wild. How much money is on the table for the small business with DoD contracts right now?
A ton. We have an administration. I'll speak just briefly to Dan Driscoll and the Army. Coming from a venture capitalist background, a private equity background. Steve Feinberg, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, also from that background. They are hyper focused on getting the best technology, the fastest way possible into the hands of soldiers and sailors and airmen. But it's difficult because the apparatus that they've inherited, this national, industrial complex, legislative industrial complex, it has not tried to move like this in the past. And so Secretary Hegseth issued out changes to the acquisition cycle and the acquisition authorities, and they're trying to get more adjustable, what they call flexible funding from Congress. But Congress doesn't like to give money that you can do what you want to with it, because their role is to tell you what to do with it. Right. So that is the push and the pull right now between the legislative and the executive branch when it comes to this. And you got to understand that. And so the administration, Dan Driscoll, Pete Hegseth, they're trying to get as flexible as possible so that small businesses with good tech can be seen, can be tried, if it's good, they can be matured and prototyped and tested and get into the hands of troops. And the ones that aren't, don't. And so that means and inherently people in business know that if you're going to try to move that fast, you're going to have more failures than successes. The thing is that the successes are going to be really successful, and the failures we need to get to right away and put aside. But Congress doesn't like for you to take money that the taxpayer gave you and fail and put it aside, right? Like that money's lost. What did we give you it for? It's gone.
Wow.
And so it's a different model and it's a different mindset. And that's the push and pull taking place today. And we're going to continue to see that, I think, for the foreseeable future. And then come 2027, depending on what happens in this midterm elections, it'll be a whole new dynamic, probably.
Whole new world. What is your advice to that veteran that just separated from the military and they kind of have an entrepreneur spirit and they're just kind of like, what do I do? I feel lost. I need some hope. I need some inspiration. What's your word of advice being a veteran to a veteran on being a small business owner, the potential, what they could do?
Well, for all veterans, and I've had multiple conversations and some speeches about this. If you're, first things first, get into the workplace. I mean, especially if you've done a career. I mean, I did 22 years. So by the time I came out at 42 years old, I didn't know what was what. I didn't know the lingo, the terminology, the environment, and that environment changes. I mean, wherever you're at, You can enter. So get a job in the workforce. Like get in. It doesn't really matter because you're not going to be there that long. The idea that like I have to commit, like I committed to the service, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I'm going to be in an assignment for 4 years or 3 years. Like, no, you can have a job for 6 months and bounce.
Sure.
Because the commercial world isn't loyal to you, and you don't necessarily have to be loyal to it.
Good point. That is true.
Second thing is you might not know what you want to do, and a lot of people find out. Make a list of what you don't want to do.
Very good advice.
We have a saying in my house, I might not know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want. and I will tell you, I'll just run through a quick list. Like me, right. I don't want to shovel snow, 6 feet of snow every summer, every winter, right? I don't want a place where it rains, more than 3 days a week. I don't want to live in the desert, where it's 100 for 9.5, 10 months a year. Okay. So just there, that takes away about 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the country. So that leaves like Virginia, like Pennsylvania down to Florida and over to Texas a little bit. So we'll start there. And like, if I don't want to travel more than 50%, I don't want to, I don't want my kids to go to school without me seeing them. I don't want to miss any more games. I don't want to work past 6 o'clock in the evening, right? Like start the things that I don't want. Now you might have to do them initially, but it gives you a better list of like, okay, let's stay away from the things that I don't want to do while I slowly figure out what I'm good at outside of the uniform. And then when it comes to like entrepreneurship and small business, you get after it. I mean, nobody's going to do it for you. I mean, nope. There's no staff. There's no staff to help you. There's no subordinates. There's no lower ranking people. I mean, you're going to have to do the work. So find out what you're good at and find a need and fill it. And if you can and you start there, then chances are you're going to end up where you want to be.
Yeah, you just got to figure out what their passion is. Maybe it's sounds like you're in communications, technology communications in the military. I was 2531 Marine Corps field radio operator. So maybe you take that, whatever training you were in the military, maybe a mechanic, work at a dealership. And then if you have some entrepreneur hunger or passion or ambition, reach out to us or reach out to somebody that you admire, respect, and trust that's working in business. Reach out to them, say, hey, how do I do this? Just don't be afraid to ask, because there's so much potential, especially as being a small business. If you're service disabled as well, there's even bigger bonuses for you to work with the Boeing, the Northrop Grummings, and the big titans in Washington, D.C. that are Department of Defense contractors.
Yeah, there's a ton of opportunities. I mean, in 2026, I mean, I think we're blessed to live at a time where you can do essentially whatever it is you want to do when you want to do it. And if you're coming out as a military, if you're a retiree, for instance, then you have a floor on your income where you're going, as long as you wake up, you get a certain amount, or if you got a disability of some sort, that money comes in. Like you use it as a safety net to try new things. And if you can't, because the bills are high or whatever, like I said, get to work, get a civilian job under your belt, understand the landscape, right? Go back to my unconventional warfare kind of background, like read the environment. If I'm down in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, I can do a job interview in Merrell boots and cargo pants. You can't do that here in DC. They're going to have to show up with a jacket and a tie, and you're going to have to be able to speak like they speak and understand the environment.
Good point.
And I love my Pizzos at Fort Bragg. I'll go there regularly. And when I'm there, I dress like them and I talk like them. When I'm here in DC, I dress like them and I talk like them. You won't know that until you get out there and be a part of it and be able to study the landscape around you and say, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I think works. Let me find a mentor or two and see if I can, voice my idea if it makes sense. And then how do I plan to get there?
Great advice. Yeah. I know there's a lot of veterans that listen to this podcast or in the protection world of executive protection. And so they listen to this and some of them want to get out. I know after COVID, a lot of people had to get out of the industry. Nobody's really spending any money. And I know the tariffs kind of hit a lot of businesses from wanting to spend money on security services too. And so we're kind of going through that transition. Everybody's adjusting. And like you said, I think 2026 and 2027 are going to probably be some of the best growth years we've ever seen in U.S. history in business. I think it's just going to, from what I'm hearing in Texas, with all the international money coming into Texas, it's just going to explode. And people think I'm wrong. People think I'm crazy, but they think that way. But I'm like, hey, I'm an optimist. I'm a business owner. You got to be optimist, regardless who the president is. I've always said, administration will never control my pocketbook. I control my pocketbook.
Well, everything that we just spoke about the robust military government, expansion in the industrial base here. Yeah. In order to produce critical minerals and batteries and technology and drones and missiles and everything, chips that are going to be used in our national security are going to have to be protected.
Oh, right? Yeah, security forces. Security guard services.
Stargate in Amarillo, you mentioned Texas. Stargate's going to need, protection. The Elon's new facilities out in Austin, they're going to need new protection. Every other place that we're going to build and dig and that have national security implications is going to have to be protected. And a lot of that money is going to flow. It's going to have to flow to that. So
sure.
There's opportunity for people in the protection space. And then if you're in the personal protection space, the richer people get, the more they're going to have people to protect them.
They got to have it. We're licensed in 5 states, including Texas.
Yeah. So protection ain't going anywhere. If anything, it's going to become, more important.
Yeah, because you have Palantir, they do AI geofencing, right? It's kind of what they do. And you guys use it in the special forces when you're on mission throughout the world, and pretty wild. I know Mark Beeson, our chief operating officer, he was Homeland Security, that they even used it with Homeland Security back in the day when he was there. I'm like, really? Wow, I did not know that. So there are companies like that, and there's going to be more companies even evolving with all the money being spent to protect our infrastructure, AI. You can't even begin to explain all that. That's another whole podcast right there. But where can people find you, Eddie? Do you have a website or anything people can reach out to you? Just to reach out to you?
Well, the easiest place is always LinkedIn, but my website is www.Garcia, Garcia Affairs and Government Affairs and Business Strategies.com. So GarciaGABS.com.
Okay, perfect. And are you on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything like that?
I am, but I don't do any business in there. If you want to go see, pictures of my family or whatever, I don't have any business. I don't have any business pages. I keep my clientele, close hold. I'm not into right at this point in time expanding too much. So I have a handful of clients that have a niche that they're trying to fill. And I try to help them do that, because one of those things that I said to figure out what you don't want to do. One of the things I don't want to do at this point is be responsible for a lot of people's jobs and lives that come with a big business. And so I have a senior getting ready to graduate high school, and I'm dad this year. I got another one getting ready to graduate middle school, and I'm dad this year. And so I'm a cheerleading dad. I'm a volleyball dad.
You're busy.
And right now, that's what I do want to do. And so, you could, I don't have a lot of business profiles out there on all the social media. Come follow me on LinkedIn. We can have a conversation.
Easy enough. That's where we connected. I was watching him. I was kind of watching the Venezuela thing, and he started posting some stuff like, whoa, this is good content. This makes a lot of sense. And that's how we connected. And then a week later, here we are. The power of digital marketing, and it works.
There you go.
I'm in the West Coast. He's in DC, and we'll probably link up. Just folks, this is the power of podcasting. Him and I will probably link up in DC when I'm out there. We'll probably grab dinner or lunch or something like that when I'm in town. But that is truly the power of digital marketing. And you just create an organic relationship, get to know each other. You just build on that. May not be business now, may not be business 6 months, but you just never know where these conversations go. And that's how critical podcasting really is. So I know the people, a lot of skeptical, oh, it's a thing of the past. No, it's a thing of now. You just got to get your voice out there and not be afraid to talk. The camera's on, the microphone's on, and just take a chance, because you never know where that chance is what doors those chances will take. So, yeah, Eddie, thanks for your time, and thanks for just kind of selling into the veteran community with your advice to them. I know they listen to this show quite a bit, and those other business owners. And any parting word before we wrap up the show?
No, I just want to say thanks. Thanks, Mark, for reaching out initially. I'm happy to be on the podcast. Love to carry the conversation. And yeah, when you're in DC, give me a holler. It doesn't have to be about business. I mean, everything in DC is about business, but
it is.
but more important is making sure and helping the people who run our federal government to help them have the best, most accurate information that they can in order to make the best decisions for everybody, because we all got to live here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, DC is one of my favorite places. Like, you go back in history and see the foundation of the country where it started from. It's probably the most powerful place I've ever been to in my life. And I always look at the architecture. I'm like, the French must have built this because it looks like a lot like France in the architecture and the design.
I'm not a history buff, but I mean, the French had a big play in our Revolutionary War. And so Laflante is the guy, I think, who designed this, who designed the city, and they named a metro stop after him. I don't know his first name. I just know Laflante Plaza is like right there in the middle of DC, and I think he's the guy who helped design this place. Yeah,
it makes it the architecture like it resembles France, and I'm like, oh, probably because of French settlers back in the day. So it makes sense, but it always looks different from the rest of the country. Washington D.C. It just had that different look to it, but every part of the country looks different from the other. But anyway, yeah, follow us, listeners, just follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mark Ledlow. And also we're on Instagram, the Mark Ledlow, X as well, and all the podcast platforms where we'll be releasing this probably in the next couple of weeks. And by perfect timing, because I know everybody's kind of wondering what the heck's going on with Russia, Ukraine, and Greenland. And Eddie, of course, kind of gave his point of view, being where he's at in his space. So kind of give you guys all some clarity. I know a lot of people that watch this podcast don't even listen to the news. They don't believe in the news anymore. So that's why we have a podcast as well, to give you some facts from people that know what they're talking about. So with that said, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Fearless Mindset, and we'll see you soon.